vị, Lê Cung là một tài tử người Mỹ gốc Việt, là võ sĩ môn võ tổng hợp và là võ sĩ kickboxer Sanshu. Anh thi đấu hạng trung trong giải Ultimate Fighting Championship, đó là UFC, và nổi tiếng là một trong những võ sĩ có cú đánh knockout ghê gớm nhất trong lịch sử UFC. Anh Lâm Tú thuộc lực lượng đặc biệt mũ xanh lục quân Hoa Kỳ đã về hưu, 23 năm tham gia trong các hoạt động đặc nhiệm của Hoa Kỳ tại 27 quốc gia trên toàn thế giới, trừng toán các hoạt động chiến tranh bất quy ước, bảo vệ yếu nhân ở ngoại quốc, trinh sát đặc biệt, giải cứu con tin, những hoạt động trực tiếp đương đầu và chống khủng bố ở những vùng quy ước và bất quy ước, phối hợp huấn luyện các đơn vị đặc nhiệm cho đội ngũ và trường toán. Người sáng lập kiêm giám đốc điều hành của huấn luyện và nghiên cứu phát triển cho Ronin Tactics Incorporated. Sau đây là buổi phỏng vấn đặc biệt của Tô Uyen với Lê Cung và Tú Lâm. Can you please share with our viewers what inspired you both to come together and make this great show for those who never heard about the show called Fight or Flight?
Flight.
You're right? Fight or Flight.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
That's a very interesting name. I'm just curious who came up with the title.
Actually, it was another special operation guy who is retired, and he's a writer now. He writes scripts for a living. And at first I had the show, it was called Modern Day Warriors, because training with the modern day warriors, like to top of the food chain.
Yes.
I didn't know that was such a not a good name for a show, but so when the guy, his name is Travis, he's a writer, and he says, your show's got to be fight or flight. So I got to give him credit for it. I can't take the credit for it.
How did you meet Cung?
Oh, actually, I've been following Cung for a very long time. He's one of my favorite fighters. You know, when I lived in Japan, I started following him, and he was always been a huge role model for me in the martial arts world, because being a martial artist. So I met Cung for the first time about 2 years ago at the SHOT Show in Las Vegas, and I came up to him, and I was retiring out of the military, and he was getting out of UFC. So we met there, and then we came together again this year in January. And that's when we really collaborated on the show Fight or Flight.
You just mentioned that you just retired from the military. Can you talk a little bit about your background for those of our viewers who very new to you come on the show and on SBTN? Cung is like part of our family now, so I'm going to ask you. Can you talk a little bit about yourself, and were you born in this country, or did you come to this country when you were a young boy?
So I was born in '74, the year of the tiger, and after the fall of Saigon, my mother, my brother and I, we escaped by the boat from Vietnam, where we made our way into Indonesia. So from Indonesia, my aunt married an American Special Forces lieutenant, and he... Yeah, Mi Chang. And he expedited the paperwork for us to get over to the United States, where my mother eventually remarried to an American Mi Chang Special Forces. And since I was 8, I've been training in the way of the Special Forces. So I knew, like, you know, I was propelled to go back into countries and to help those in need. So when I was 18, I went to the Rangers, and then eventually made my way into the A teams in the Special Forces.
So you joined the military when you were 18. At that time, you already knew what you wanted to do. You wanted to join the Special Forces. Can you talk about the process you went through to get to where you are, like 10 years later?
Wow. So back then, the military didn't allow for guys to come off the street, off of basic training and advanced infantry training, whatever, to go straight to the Special Forces. They want a more mature type of soldier to even be a candidate for Special Forces selection and assessment. So when I first came in, I went to the long range reconnaissance Element, which was an amphibious team, which I went to the Marine Amphibious Reconnaissance School, Rangers, and LURS Leaders course. When I made the rank of E5, that's when you start getting qualified to even apply for the Special Forces. And it's a lot of academics. They want this smarter, more intelligent, more mature soldier. I was very young though, but my commander believed in me where he wrote a waiver for me to apply for the Special Forces. And I applied for it and eventually made my way through selection, got selected, and went through the Special Forces qualification course, which was around a year long. And that's not including advanced infiltration training and language and skills like that.
So that was one long year?
That was a very long, year and a half process to get to the teams. And eventually I made my way to Okinawa, Japan, which I was assigned to the A teams, which is the operational guys that would go throughout Asia, because it was 1st Special Forces Group. We would go throughout Asia and we would help anybody who's in need. We will fight terrorism. We'll do hostage rescue missions if it's called upon to do it.
So from Japan, after that, which country you went right after Japan, after they assigned you?
So when Japan was our headquarters, that's where we were kind of located. And then if anything was to happen throughout Asia, we would rapidly deploy to that country and will affect that country. So my areas that I've been through almost every country out in Asia, and I worked out there. And after 9/11, after the attack on our Twin Towers in New York, we were called upon to go into the Philippines, where we combat Abu Sayyaf and fought against them, protected the Christians in the southern regions of the Philippines.
Were there anyone lost their lives during that mission with you? Any of your friends who went with you and make it?
Unfortunately, I lost a few friends along the way. We lost friends in the Philippines and a lot of other countries we kind of go to.
So now the show that you and Cung are working on together, you have like Cung said, massive resume. And then you also have massive resume. So how did you both sit down, like come together, sit down and plan out what you're gonna do and what you're gonna do to make this show like practical and common, ordinary people like us, like me, can watch and learn from this? Like who decides to do what and what sort of training you guys like take on to show that the fans and the viewers?
Yeah, so it was a combined effort between Cung. It was actually Cung's vision. Being a former Special Forces team member, I always seek to help, and there's always a bigger purpose, right? There's always a bigger purpose than just serving yourself and being in your little confined world. That's what propelled me to go into all these countries and to liberate and help, those oppressed. So within the Special Forces, we have a motto, De Oppresso Librare, which is it's Latin for we free the oppressed, right? So I took that oath at a very young age when I was in my 20s, and it stayed with me throughout my whole life. And living in Japan, I became very spiritual in the Eastern philosophies and the higher purpose. And when I got out, I knew like my direction was to go around and teach law enforcement, help civilians, military, and that's where I was going. I started my own company called Ronin Tactics. And when I met Cung's like, hey, I want to start this show to help past victims. And instantly I felt like that's the higher purpose, right? So I was propelled to help, any way I could, and that's where it kind of led to.
So Cung, what happened if two said no to you? Would you just walk away and look for another Vietnamese American Special Forces, or you would just continue to pursue to do the show? What if I said what if?
First of all, when I looked at the big picture, a lot of Hollywood producer friends of mine were like, Cung, you need more white people on the show, right? And I wasn't like, you know, I was a little bit offended, but at the same time, I know because they've done it. And this was like my first time really controlling a whole project. And I basically started, like I said, interviewed a lot of different characters in the Special Forces. And when I talked to Tu, he was so humble. And he basically broke down how he would help instead of what he would do himself. So because for me, I didn't understand like what he would, you know, his mission was in life until he explained it to me. But at the same time, I knew that I can't teach the general public, the civilians, what I do. So I had to bring in the expert to help me help them. What I do, I think there's not a lot of people that want to do what I do because they'll be very sore and it'll take a long time to recover.
Right.
And I'm a professional fighter. I'm just like you. If we're in a movie theater and an active shooter comes in, I don't have a gun and I'm not bulletproof. Yeah. So I become like every civilian. Yes. So I took on as the role of the student, and I want to ask all the questions that everyone would ask. What if I was in this situation? What would I do? How would I escape? How would I survive? And the best person that came to me, I believe, I'm very religious, and I asked for help from God, and our path crossed. I didn't have to worry about to say, no, I'm not going to do it. It just happened, and how things are happening, and how the first show went, and how the second show has gone. It shouldn't even be going right now. It sped up a lot of things. Like there was a lot of roadblocks because I think something powerful like this, of course, the dark powers out there want to stop it, and the good powers helped it, pushed it through, and now we got this amazing show. Even The Rock has given us a plug about our show, and all the guys from the raid. Yes. And it's just the start.
And your friend Scott Atkins,
yes,
British actor.
So I feel that with Tu, I tried not to be like, I'm just going to pick a white guy. I'm going to pick the best guy for the show, the best mentor for the show, and it happened to be Tu, and he happened to be Vietnamese, which was great. So what I had to do is surround us with a lot of Caucasian people, and it happened to be a lot of Caucasian victims. And so now the irony about this is the U.S. troops came in, and we were refugees. So in a way, they helped us, and we're alive because a lot of them sacrificed their life, and a lot of them were injured, and a lot of them, you know, suffered from, you know, war. And now it's 2 Asian guys giving back, and all the victims happen to be white.
Yes, and 2 Asian guys happen to be 2 Vietnamese Americans.
Yes.
Dạ vâng, thưa quý vị. Xin quý vị khán thính giả vui lòng giữ màn ảnh của SBTN, chúng tôi sẽ trở lại sau phần quảng cáo.